Hi, it's Deb Putnoi here, and I'm really excited today to talk to you about board teens at home this summer, during the school year. I love teaching tweens and teens. That's kind of my favorite age group is anywhere between like 8 or 10 to 18. When kids are kind of feeling bored or restless or anxious. I work a lot with kids in my studio, online, in schools, and I really love this age because I think that even though we think that sometimes teens are maybe unreachable or they're set in their patterns, what I really notice is that they just need a little bit of inspiration and a little bit of spark. Oh, I think my dog is trying to get in. I have a shepherd puppy who loves to kind of be in on my lives. I try to close the door, but I think she might sneak in. So, anyway, I love to kind of inspire teens and tweens because even though we think that maybe they are sometimes unreachable or they're in their own head or they only listen to their peers, um, or they're set in their patterns. Sometimes it's just that we need to give them something to get excited about or to spark their imagination. And so I really want to talk about that today, about how when we think our kids are in their rooms doing video games or they just feel bored or they say they're bored. I've raised teens, and so I know that feeling. What they really need is just something new to break them out of kind of their pattern. And I've seen this happen a lot where kids will come in with their parents in my studio, and it just takes a little bit of kind of showing them a new way or something to do in a different way. And even if you feel like you're not so artsy or your teen isn't that artsy, that they're like, they don't kind of see themselves as artsy or creative, what I want to share with you today is that we all have that artistic side within us. We all have that creative side. So I'm going to share with you just a couple of ideas of ways to get you and your teen, and you don't have to do this together, but like just to kind of give some encouragement to your teen to kind of break out a little bit, to try some artistic things, and just to see what can happen when we tap into that creative side. Because, like I said, we all have that when we're little. When I've worked with little kids and when I've had my own kids, when you're 2, 3, 4, like you're excited to kind of pick up that box of crayons and see your mark on the page. And usually, like as we get into school or we start to believe that we're not creative, we get into our head about it. But really deep inside us, inside of all of us, there lives this creative kind of soul. And even if it's not like big C creativity, where it's like we're going to be Picasso, there's things that we can do in our life to kind of spark that creative joy and excitement and imagination. So, one thing I would like to kind of encourage is just to, at your kitchen table, is just to have some sketchbooks on the table, like, or have a pile of paper, or even have a bunch of index cards and some art materials. And it doesn't have to be fancy art materials. It could be markers and pens and anything that you have around the house. It could also be that you go to the store and pick up like some charcoal or some charcoal pencils or some ink pens, some cool like those pens that are like a brush on one side and a finer tip on the other side, and just just set up. I even have right here just randomly. I have just like a little. You could just have a couple pens sticking in a jar, and just encourage having things out on the table. And then if you felt like you want to do it with your teen or tween at home, you could just put on some music and just kind of say, let's sit down for 5 minutes and just like draw to music together, or draw to music that you choose. Like have your teen or tween pick some music and you just draw together to the music at the table. And so that the table becomes like the materials are out. You don't have to like make it a big production to get a lot of stuff out. And you can just say like, this is a way that, if you're trying to cut down on screen time, you can just have the sketchbooks there. And sometimes when things are there, we see it, you just start to kind of play around. So you can just encourage having the materials out and at the ready. So that's one thing just to kind of counteract boredom, is just you have the materials, have some different materials that they've never tried before, like charcoal, maybe it's even like a water brush or different like watercolors, anything that you feel comfortable to have at your kitchen table. The other thing is that if you don't want to get sketchbooks, and this is something that I've done a lot with bored teens, is, oh, I don't know if there's comments down below. Oh, hey Becky, hi guys. I didn't know that anyone's here. Okay, so if you don't have any fancy materials and you don't want to buy sketchbooks, but you have newspaper, you have like, you read the paper, you have these newspapers left, you could just put some big newspaper or craft paper on the table. And just like when you go out to some restaurants sometimes, if there's like some crayons, some big paper, just leave it out and ask, just start filling up the paper. You could give some prompts, or you could just say, again, putting on some music. You could draw a map of your home. You could draw some flowers that are sitting on the table. You could just have doodling and just randomly scribbles. And one thing that's great to do, if your kids do feel bored, just say, I want you to just scribble out your boredom on the paper. Just put the paper out and have them just scribble and say, I just want you to fill up the whole piece of paper with your boredom, with your scribbles. Everyone can scribble. There's no wrong way to scribble. So just get that scribbly vibe out on the paper. And then when it's all filled up with different marks and scribbles and patterns or whatever doodles they want to do on the paper, it's all filled up, then ask your teen or tween, if you have more than one teen or tween, to like rip up the paper into interesting shapes and pieces. And then if you have some Elmer's glue, just have them glue their pieces back into an interesting shape or pattern. And that's something you could say, what if you look at all your pieces of ripped up paper, what would you want to create out of these? So it's like you're taking your boredom and transforming it into something different. So a lot of times you don't need anything fancy. You don't need a lot of time. So sometimes you just need that 5 minutes to spark something different out of your boredom. So I always say, like, it doesn't need to be fancy. It doesn't need to be that you need like a whole hour to sit and make art or do something creative. That you can have a creative transformation, not even transformation, you can have a creative catalyst in like 5 minutes. So I want to encourage you just to help your teen kind of understand that, or your tween. Like if they're feeling bored, give them that catalyst of something creative, like a couple of the examples that I gave. Or they could go outside and draw to the sounds that they hear, or they could just bring their sketchbook outside and just draw something that they see outside or on a walk. There's so many different ways that you can use art to spark creative imagination, but also to get that to be the counterbalance for that feeling of boredom. And I think sometimes if kids are shown these ways, and they can use it not only just for boredom, but for other things that they're dealing with in their life. So it becomes kind of this self-care toolbox. And I'm going to talk about that more this week. Over the next couple of days, I have a lot of different talks that I want to address different things. But today is really about when your teen or tween feels bored, how do you help to lead them out of that boredom using art? The other thing I want to say is that follow their lead. So your teen, you might like start to introduce the idea of like art being a way to counteract boredom. And they might say, like, I've always wanted to try to use acrylic paints, or I've always wanted to try to like make sculpture out of cardboard, or whatever their thing is, to follow their lead. So some of the best educators that I love reading and thinking about are the ones that follow the lead of the child or the teen. So if your teen is saying like they want to try acrylic paints, and you're like, oh my God, I don't want to have the messiness in my house. Believe me, I've talked to a lot of parents that are very worried about mess, and they don't like things to get dirty or messy. And that's okay. I'm not trying to, I've had many people send their kids to me because I love mess and helping kids kind of explore messiness. But you can work with them to maybe do the painting outside. So you could set up an area outside where if paint gets on the grass, it's okay. That, you want to encourage, especially in our teens and tweens, if they're wanting to try something, to give them the space to have that exploration. And if acrylics feel like a little scary or it's too expensive, you can get tempera paint, or you can try some messy watercolors. You can do some big watercolors. And you can encourage them to try all these different kind of water-based materials, but let them get messy. Let them explore what happens when they make a painting that doesn't work, or that they feel like it's a mistake. Like, mistakes can lead to new discoveries. And I really believe that art is about kind of a messy exploration of process, and that we don't always know where we're going. And I think a lot of our teens get into this like perfectionistic, and maybe adults too, that things have to look a certain way or be a certain way to be okay. And my work with teens and adults over the years is really to kind of counter that narrative and counter that feeling. So I'm here to tell you that messiness is okay. If you have a garage, they could do it in the garage. Just lay out a tarp or some paper and let them explore kind of the process of creativity. And that will help counter boredom. Once you kind of unleash that ability to kind of delve into the unknown and get messy, then, you know, really anything is possible. It's really kind of exciting to watch. So, you know, if this is like daunting to you, I don't know, like sometimes, you know, I'm a very passionate believer in all of this, and I really am feeling very called right now to help our teens and tweens, specifically because I feel like you know, they've really been through a lot, and it's what I do a lot in person, but I can't be with everyone everywhere. So I really want to help parents and help teens and tweens have a space where they can explore different ideas, explore different media. So if you've got this and you have questions for me, I'm here. If you want to have something where I do more of the thinking, I created this creativity lab for teens and tweens specifically, and it's really to counteract boredom, but also to teach skills and mindset. So it's not one media, it's printing, drawing, painting, and collage, which are all the media that I do as an artist. And then I also have an area for mindset, kind of to talk about like how to be brave in your art or how to be curious in your art. I have a whole mindset area. And then I also talk about how to do things to kind of help our teens with stress and anxiety. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that tomorrow. But, you know, even if you're feeling like you want a little bit of support, I put the link here that you can check out the Creativity Lab. If you have questions about what it is, I can share. It's an online hub. Basically, if you think of Netflix for creativity, which is how I kind of think of it, you can kind of go through it any way you want. So there's over 100 videos. I keep adding videos all the time. If I do a workshop, I add the video into the lab. And it really explores from a process approach how to, you know, do silk screening or printmaking without a press, or how do you paint with acrylic or with watercolor. So I teach the skills, but I also am sharing a process approach to doing this. So let me just see if I see there's some comments. I haven't been, thank you, Mag. Yeah, I've been trying to make it a resource that can really help both families, but also the teen or tween that, you know, wants to have a space where they can go and kind of learn new skills. And I've also set it up that if your teen or tween wants to learn something within the visual arts 2D media, that I'm open to suggestions of creating those videos. So back to the boredom, I want to say that what I have seen over my decades-long teaching is that, you know, kids are right there with wanting to be inspired and wanting to kind of find their creative imagination. I've worked in lots of schools and with lots of kids with different needs, and usually it's like if you can just spark or open up that that way into kind of helping them understand that they are creative, that that the art is always with you. And I think that's like the key takeaway, that when you are making art and when you start this journey of believing in your creativity, that you always have it with you. So whether you're traveling on a bus, you're feeling lonely, you can pick up your sketchbook. It's like a friend that you always have is this sketchbook, and you can write in it, draw in it, paint in it. You can explore your ideas, but you're never alone when you have creativity at your side. And so, you know, that boredom can get squelched. You can always find, you know, a way to counteract boredom with creativity and with a sketchbook or any kind of piece of paper and a pencil. And I will leave off today. If you're watching the replay later, just let me know if you have any questions, and I will be back tomorrow to talk about kind of stress and anxiety and how the arts can help with that. Okay, have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.